Well, my plan was to have this thing started at exactly 6 o'clock, but the internet doesn't work that way. In fact, I thought if I give myself like a half a minute, I'd be caught up, but it takes YouTube a little while to get things started. This is Mike from Go Cell Phone Repair, and it's Thursday night Tech Talk. I made this as a second live stream because I know a lot of people have jobs and lives and they can't get here on Monday when we do it at 2 p.m. So I figured this would be a good alternate time. And we talk about all sorts of tech stuff. And if you're on my channel and you found the link to this live stream, one of my objectives is to answer questions for people who are using a tutorial video or any other video on my channel, or just maybe have some phone questions in general. There are a lot of people that come on here that are actually in the phone business, so they know about repairs and software and stuff like that. And beyond that, it's just kind of a hangout. So let's get it started. You know, they say if you have a question on the internet, the best way to get an answer is not to actually ask the question, but instead to make a statement about the topic that you need information for and make sure that that statement is incorrect. So you see where I'm going here with this. If you go into a forum and you ask a question, a lot of time you get responses like, hey, why don't you go look it up or read the FAQ or something along those lines. But if you go on the internet and you say something that other people disagree with, they will be happy to rush to assist you in correcting your wrong thinking. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, if you have a question and you feel like maybe you're not getting the responses that you want, you can go on and just make a completely incorrect statement. And we know there's lots of that out there anyways. So I guess, you know, yeah, you'll be adding to the signal to noise ratio, but sometimes it happens that way. And it's a funny thing. You know, I was looking at an Apple forum recently because I was having some sort of problem with an iPhone. And, you know, I found an iFixit guide with some questions and answers, but they didn't really answer the question. And I found a lot of other reputable forums where we usually get good information, and nobody really had the answer to my question. So somehow, probably because it is viewed as an authority site, I'm sure, and because they're very big, Apple gets a lot of traffic when people ask questions about how do I do this with my iPhone. A lot of times you'll see the Apple discussion forums popping up really high in the Google search results, which can often be a good thing. You know, if someone knows that phone, it should be the people that are on the Apple forum. But one thing for us in the repair industry that we run into is that a lot of times they only want certain types of help. You know, they only really want certain answers. And if you offer something that, you know, Apple might not see to be or you know, perceive as being in their best interest, like, hey, instead of going to Apple to get this problem fixed, you can go to a third-party repair shop. And a lot of times the moderators on in that community will just say, you're not allowed to say that here, and they'll censor you or ban you or whatever. And it looks like my lens is a little foggy again. Excuse me while I just dust this off a bit. I don't know how that gets to be so bad. That looks lovely, doesn't it? I don't know why that is happening every time I get on here. Okay, so I think that's a little more clear, right, after the psychedelic show. So what will happen a lot of times is if you go onto an Apple forum, you may not get the best answer. You know, especially if you're a customer, you might say, how do I fix this problem? And everyone within that forum is limited to the solutions that Apple will offer for that problem. And if you say anything otherwise, they'll often just delete your comment or ban you from the forum entirely. So it was really funny. I'm going to find this and I will post a screenshot of it as soon as I look it up again. But I was looking for an answer, and I ended up getting onto an Apple discussion forum, and someone said, how do I fix this problem? And something to do with the screen. Oh, I know what it was. It was a single dead spot on the screen. You know, there was one area on the touchscreen that wasn't working. And the responses were, of course, you know, take it to Apple. You pay X amount of dollars. If you don't have Apple Care, they'll fix the screen for you. And the guy made some comments about having had his phone already repaired by a third-party company. So he went to some phone repair shop somewhere, they repaired his phone, and now he was having problems with the screen. And, you know, there were a few people that jumped on and said, well, your warranty's voided now. You can never have anyone else touch your phone except for Apple. And then there were other people that disagreed with that and said, no, I think you can still go to Apple and they'll help you. But the best one in the entire thread was someone who made a comment to the effect that once you have a third party work on your iPhone, you are no longer allowed on the Apple discussion forum. So somebody literally said that, and somebody probably seriously believes that if you ever get your phone worked on by a third party, you can't go onto the Apple discussion forums for questions and answers. In fact, they'll probably tell you at some point that you're banned from the stores. And obviously, we know that that's not true. Occasionally, we run into a problem that is best or, can only be remedied by Apple. A good example would be Touch ID problems. When the fingerprint scanner on your phone is damaged, there is, at least at this time, there are only a handful of the special machines out there that will pair your fingerprint scanner to your phone's logic board. So when we run across something like that, we'll tell a customer, you have to go to the Apple store. They're the only ones that can get you a new Touch ID once it stops working. And usually the customers say, well, is Apple going to want to help me because you guys replaced my screen? And I don't know, this kind of seems to change from time to time, but as of right now, at least within the US, my understanding is that your warranty is still not voided just because you've had some work done by a third-party repair company. And so you can still go to Apple. Obviously, if they've done a lot of damage to your phone, they are, there's going to be limited as far as what they can do. Let me open up this chat here because I want to say hello. And I forgot to pop that out. Jacob. How's it going, Jacob? Shout out to me. I like it. I love iFixit too. They're awesome. I love what they're doing. They are not only very helpful, but they are also behind the right to repair movement and behind independent repair. And yeah, it's an awesome company. I want to go down there one of these days. I always thought that Apple was very hard to fix, but I've done more screen replacements. I feel that Apple is easier and easier. I couldn't agree more, and even so far, we've been lucky, up till now, as long as you don't get too sloppy, they are pretty easy for the most part. When you're dealing with screen repairs, that kind of stuff, right? It's all level 1 on those Apple forums. Don't dare talk about level 2 and 3 stuff on there. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. They banned Jessa Jones, which is really sad, but understandable. It's our way or the highway, and anyone that comes in there, regardless of what's best for their customers. And they're, apparently a big enough company that who cares if a few customers don't get what they really need, as long as we maintain that customer loyalty and that image of Apple can do no wrong and they are the all-knowing and no one else has any business messing around with your stuff. But the reason I brought this up is because I was just thinking about how much, I have an iPhone and I've got a MacBook that I use, and once in a while I come across something that I don't really feel that it does as easily as Android or Windows or, some alternate operating system for the most part. And what's really cool, the great effect, if there is anything good to be taken from this whole phenomena of people just buying into Apple 100%, is that if I know that there's a fanboy of sorts in the crowd, and I complain about something that my iPhone doesn't do or that my MacBook won't do, I will almost always get the solution to my problem that I was looking for. So all I have to do is say, Apple's iPhone, I hate this iPhone. It doesn't do this X thing. And guaranteed, if there's a fanboy within 100 feet, he'll rush over and say, oh yeah, no, you can totally do that. Here's how you do that. And they'll be happy to sit down and explain it to you. Whereas I think if you walk up to someone and start asking them questions about, hey, can you teach me how to use my phone? A lot of people just know what kind of conversation they're getting into that point, and they'll refer you to the owner's manual or someone else who knows, or just kind of dummy up and be like, yeah, I don't know, you have to figure it out, or you'll learn over time or something like that. So it's really funny how that's one way that this, sort of brainwashing effect can work for you, because people jumping to defend something that they believe in are often willing to explain to you how it works. So if you got a question, there's one great way to get an answer. Just a quick announcement here. I will be doing a basic phone repair training course in Antioch, California at MD Wireless next month, December 12th through the 15th. Now, why did I bring that up? Besides to plug it, because obviously, I do want to promote my program. Within this repair arena, there's kind of often the response, or, even on YouTube in general, is like, why would you get phone repair training? Just watch some YouTube videos and you can fix anything. And, a point that Tim Sherman brought up, if you're planning on working on iPhones and you have technical aptitude, you can probably jump on and watch some videos and figure out how to change a screen. Absolutely. I would not disagree with that at all. Now, there are people of different skill levels. Some will need more guidance, and there are quite a few people who like to get the hands-on experience working on handsets and not having to invest in these parts for themselves. And that's one of the benefits, I think, to any training program is not only the information that you get, but the experience that you get. So yes, by all means, if you want to just do iPhones and all you want to do is screens, most people who are handy with the screwdriver can get the information that they need online, and that will take you far when it comes to repairing screens. But there are other things to be gained, and this is not me just talking about my training that I do, but anyone who's offering some sort of training is that as I mentioned, there are various levels of skill. So some people need that person looking over their shoulder and coaching them and steering them away from bad habits. That would be one reason you might consider a program like that. As I mentioned earlier, actually having access to a huge variety of handsets. If I've got 50 different handsets and you can practice on any one of them that you like, or any program that's being offered should make that available to their students. Obviously, you should say, hey, show me how to do an iPhone 7, show me how to do an iPhone, or show me how to do a Galaxy S7 Edge, or show me how to do whatever device it is that you're interested. Show me how to do an iPad. And, instead of going out and buying all that stuff, which actually is a good investment because you can still use them to practice on and use them for spare parts, but you get to learn kind of the little nuances that go into repair, especially when you get beyond screen level repair stuff, beyond the basics. And also you get the opportunity to kind of handle things that might come up that may be unexpected, which, once in a while, someone who isn't thinking and disconnects an iPhone 6s cable and burns out the backlight is going to need to be able to do more than change out the screen, or at least know who to contact and what to do about something like, a burnt backlight situation, for example. I think that was all that I had on that one right there. Juan R. I love how you do your work, man. Great job. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. You can't learn to have a steady hand on YouTube. Absolutely. You really can't, I think, do a few things on YouTube. Obviously, and when I see these comments that kind of, to a certain extent, I take it personally, because not just because of training, but because as a technician, the stuff that we do, people will look at a YouTube video and we see them all the time come into the store and go, oh yeah, I watched the video, I could do this myself, but I just don't have time. And yeah, sure you don't, because a lot of times this stuff is not as easy as it looks, even when it comes to something simple like a modular screen repair. So when someone says, oh, you don't need to get any training, just watch some YouTube videos, I always think, if it was that easy, and I don't want to make this comparison, but I like the reference, and that is, if you could learn everything on YouTube, we would not need colleges anymore, right? You could go and get all the information you need. You could go onto YouTube, watch some videos, and then you could become a brain surgeon. And obviously, there's a lot more to becoming a brain surgeon than a phone technician. But I'm always surprised that I've heard more than one surgeon, actual surgeon, take a look at some micro soldering videos and say that for their field, what they practice in when it comes to surgery, they're not working, in most cases, they're not working anywhere close to the level of, when it comes to the scale of things that micro soldering is, which really surprised me, and that's not to say that surgery is easier than micro soldering, but it certainly puts things into perspective when you think about the accuracy that goes into those types of repairs. Okay, so I'm going to get off that. I did want to put that out there for you guys. Now, for all of you who are in business, and even if you're not, I have a question just to think about, and I'll kind of leave it out there for a minute. But there's a mixed sort of opinion out there as far as whether or not you should publish your prices. And this is a great question that I thought would be interesting to discuss, especially with other people who are in the field. Let me go ahead and throw this chat on here. Do you publish your prices? Do you think it's a good idea to publish your prices? And I'm talking about putting something up. It could be anything from a sign on your door to, a Facebook ad, or, maybe advertising on Google, or just having your website show the prices for every individual repair that you do in your store. And there's a reason I'm asking this question. It may seem like a no-brainer to a lot of people, right? But there are opinions on either side that actually have really good points about why this doesn't, should, or shouldn't happen. So I'm always, try to keep an open mind and listen to other opinions and try to learn something if I can. That's always my main objective, is to acquire more information, get better at what I do, and understand what techniques are working for other people so that we can apply that to our business, whenever appropriate. So if you were running a business as a phone repair store, or if you're a customer, do you like to be able to go to a website, to Facebook, to wherever, and just say, okay, here's all the prices for all the stuff they do? Is that a big deal for you? Is it a huge factor in your shopping experience? And this is one of the things that's interesting about this. And it comes to when we talk about communicating with your customer, because obviously if everything in phone repair was about competitive pricing, then it would be very simple. You would have the person closest to you who does the repair for the least amount of money, and everyone would go there, right? So why are there other businesses out there that have varying rates when it comes to, at least what is perceived by customers being the same thing? And on that note, while you're thinking about that, because I really want to hear everyone's opinion on this. On that note, just recently, I had a company approach me, and you guys that run shops, you probably get these emails all the time where they say, they usually start out with something like, hello, dear, and then they're quoting prices, and it's generally a factory or distributor of some sort, generally a factory, I think, direct to customer from China that's selling iPhone screens or selling some other sort of screen, and they'll always say, hey, here's our prices, and we look at that and we say, okay, I see the difference in prices. Some are more competitive than others, but there are reasons that most of us choose the suppliers that we go with. And in many cases, phone repair stores will buy from a supplier that's inside the United States, even though they may not be competitively priced. Now, I'm going to set aside all the people that are doing their own screen refurbishing. Obviously, for them, this doesn't, this isn't going to factor into every transaction, but there are probably some screens that you don't refurbish. So this would still be a consideration for where you go now. And of course, at that point, if you're buying a small quantity of screens, you're probably not dealing direct with someone in China. But anyways, back to the topic, I get these people who, sales reps or whatever capacity they're working in over there, and they'll send me a price list and say, buy our stuff, and that's pretty much what it is. There's not much else to it. It's kind of just a, if you ever looked at a government bid, when you go into a school or a county or a city or anything like that, there's not a lot of negotiating, hey, let me come in and take care of you guys. You like me, I like you, you'll buy from me because we get along. It usually just comes down to someone putting in a bid, so everyone goes in and says, I'll do this job for this price, and no one wants to undercut themselves, but they do want to undercut their competitor, because for all practical purposes, it's the same thing. Whoever has the lowest price wins. But when we look at suppliers, we take a few other factors into consideration, and the reason I brought this up is because just recently, I took my iPhone 7, and a company, these companies kept emailing me saying, hey, buy our parts, buy our parts, buy our parts. And I said, you know what? I made a generic response, and I'm not sure you'll get the same result, but it's definitely worth trying. I put together a little form letter, and I emailed everyone back and said, if you want me to try your screen, send me some. Plain and simple. Send me some samples. I'll check them out. If I like them, great. Now, that's not going to go over very well because, as you can imagine, they can't send samples out to everyone. So I didn't expect to get much of a response from this in the beginning. But at the same time, we have to assume that because it's so competitive, everyone is selling screens for iPhone, screens for Samsung. So there's a lot of competition out there. They have to make their money. And I really was convinced that if anyone was super confident, sorry, I can't talk tonight, folks. It is Thursday. It's almost Friday night, so I'm probably going to have a drink here in a second also. So feel free to do so. But I figured if someone was highly confident in their product, maybe they would just send me some screens to check out in the hopes that I would continue to buy from them. And it actually happened. I got a company that said, sure, we'll send you some samples, try them out. So I know that these guys are serious, They're willing to put their money where their mouth is, put their product up front and say, here, check it out. Tell us if you like it. If so, maybe we can do business. So that really impressed me. So I got this screen, iPhone 7, switched out the OEM one, and I've been using it for about 2.5 weeks now because I was really wanting to watch this closely and see what a difference that makes. Because when we talk about pricing, the customer doesn't see this part on the other end, and that is what kind of part are you getting? And when you hear someone talk about OEM and aftermarket and grade A and AAA and super copy and stuff like that, a lot of times it sounds like sales hype. It's all those terms coming out there is like, well, ours is better than ours, is better than theirs, and outside of OEM, it's really hard to know what level of quality you're getting. So I've been using the screen for a while, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed by the quality. I'm gonna show you a short video here in a second, hopefully if everything works out, that I'm working on. I told them, in return, I'll make a review video and show people exactly what your screen looks like, and then they can go from there. And I'll give you a link to the company, and you can check it out if you want. So that'll be done in a couple of days. But overall, I did see differences from the LCD to the aftermarket, absolutely. And this is a Tianma, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But is it enough to change my life or make me want to pay, if I had to pay for my phone to be fixed, the difference in price for the cost of an OEM aftermarket? And I gotta say, at this point, I don't think it is, really. That's just me. I'm gonna jump over to the comments because there are a couple coming in. I want you guys to definitely be a part of this. I only publish online a few flagship models. I try to market cheap, like an iPhone 6 model. I really want them to come in or call the store, so I do sales skills. And it's interesting that you said that. It's interesting that you said that because that's kind of an in-between one right there. You know, we have a lot of people who buy into the whole idea of I'm going to do something here real quick too. Where was I, Tim? I was just about to see if a couple of you might want to moderate here because I really don't want to deal with this. Anyways, I'll come back to that. So that's kind of an in-between. You know, we usually have people on both sides. One wants to publish all the prices and lowball on everything, and the other ones kind of are looking at it the same way you are, and that is that there is a... Okay, what is going on here? Dude, you got to go, man. This ain't about that. Okay, so what was I saying? Let's see. Okay, let's get back to this. So yeah, so the thing was, you picked an in-between, which I think is interesting, you know, to pick a flagship or pick maybe a loss leader, right? That would be the equivalent of a loss leader pretty much. And that way you get attention from people, they come in, and presumably, you know, the idea behind that is that they like your business and they'll buy from you again in the future, right? Although we kind of hope it's not going to be the same one if that's your loss leader, because that's the other trail that we don't want to go down, where we generate a lot of customers who don't want to spend a lot of money, always want the cheapest option, you know, are always trying to play you against someone else down the street. You know, we're looking for loyal customers who pay for good quality and get what they pay for the most part, right? So yeah, that's an interesting take on that one. And I'm not convinced of either way, honestly. You know, I'm kind of in between myself. You know, it's difficult because we know that there's a certain number of people who go and look at a price and that's it. They're not going to call, right? So for that crowd, you know, that demographic, you can't have no prices showing, because if you do, they're not, you know, it's highly unlikely they're going to call you, right? You're going to hope that they're going to be close by and walk in, but other than that, you're not going to get that customer. So I kind of like the idea of at least having something out there to tell them about, you know, to get them in the door, or maybe, you know, offer some sort of promotion. And then, you know, the other side of it, of course, being we really would like for people to call us, and we really want to show them, you know, you said sales, but I think it's more about giving a customer an idea, or just equally as much about giving a customer an idea of what they're going to experience when they get to your store, right? So you want them to know Tim Sherman. We want to know, oh, we know Tim Sherman, man, we got to go see him, and not, oh, this is the $69 guy, right? And this is the $65 guy because I told him about the other guy's price, so I'm going to go there. And when you get into the whole price war thing, I've said this before, it's not just the retailers or the service industry that suffers. Inevitably, the customer does. And this is the whole thing. I think the driving force behind Apple's ability, one of the contributing factors, let me back up. One of the contributing factors behind Apple's ability and many other brand name companies' abilities to maintain their customer loyalty, because someone goes somewhere else and they get that other service that is willing to work for the smallest margin. And obviously, if you have skills, you're not working for the smallest margin. You know, you'd be crazy to. Why would you, someone who knows what they're doing, charge as much as the guy that, you know, just learned how to do this last week, right? So we want to be able to project an image to the customer, and in order to do that, we need to get them to get to us. So I really like your idea here. Oh, really? You're just going to go make another account? For real? I'm going to have to put other kind of filters on here to stop this. This is annoying. Hey, do you guys, if anyone who wants to volunteer that I know, Tim, Jacob, if you guys are interested, I'll make you mods, because you can just click a button and they're gone. It's cool. So I really, I kind of admire the fact that someone's able to kind of affect my concentration though. So good job for him. Okay, so published prices. Yeah, I like that approach. And I'm always interested to hear what customers say, but I'll admit that I am the kind of person that wants to just go walk into the Saturn dealer. You know what I mean? I want to go somewhere and know that I'm getting the best price and not have to negotiate when it comes to anything. But obviously, you know, when an industry becomes so saturated, and this is, I draw parallels to car sales, you know, car dealerships, because the same thing happens there. You know, the last thing a good car salesman is going to do is quote you a price over the phone. Because if you call a car dealer and just say, how much can I get this car for out the door? If you get a straight answer, a number, you're talking to someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah, let me set that up, man, because I really don't have, I don't have the the energy, and it's hard enough to run this software at the same time. Let's see, how do we do this here? Let's see, how does this happen? Maybe I just right click on you. Okay, I think that worked. There's one. I appreciate it, Tim. You can take a load off my mind. Cheers, everyone. I need a sip. So, oh yeah, actually, I also set this up just in case I wanted to walk away. And let's see if it works. I wanted to test it out anyways. Let's try this. Oh, look, see, it works. You can't see me. I thought that would be a little more courteous for me not to take a big swig on screen. I don't know. No, but I know who can. Let's see. Let's do this. All right, so let's see how good this guy's script is. Because if we keep seeing him, then props, you know. He's not entertaining, though. That's the problem. He's not funny. He's just obscene. So that's not even contributing to the entertainment factor. If you get good at that, though, try again, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so iPhone aftermarket screens. I'm going to try to play this video and see. Hey, what's up, tech? I'm going to try to play this video and see if it plays. So we might have to go over here for a second. Oh, that's the same screen. Huh. And why did that happen? All right, so let's see if this will work. Now, you guys have all seen these, honestly. So actually, I'll probably hold off on that for a second because I'm sure it's going to bore you. But if you want to see it, I've got a little video. It's just a Tianma versus OEM, pretty much. All right, so on Monday, were either of you here on Monday or any of you here on Monday? Because I started a stream and I was having some technical problems. I know. And even techs, it happens to us. So this laptop and this software was not cooperating with me. So the only thing about it was, though, I don't think a lot of it would have benefited you guys. Let's see what we were talking about that day real quick. So I had Google Apps for iPhone 10. I don't know if you run into this already, but apparently a lot of the apps are not optimized for that new screen with the little notch at the top. I thought that was kind of interesting. I know that's not matching right now. Let's see if we have the right one here since we're on the thing. But see, I don't have chat on this one, so that's a bummer. If they make more accounts, you can just get more views. That's true. Good point. Good point. So let's see. Matt, are you using the 10? Are you seeing that there are a lot of apps that don't look right on there? As far as, I think it was Gmail. It was pretty much a lot of Google apps that weren't showing up properly or hadn't, been updated to work with the horns. I know they call it the notch. I call it the horns because that's what it looks like to me. That was one of the things. And then there was, I don't want to make you dizzy here flipping between slides, but let's see if we can get these topics all lit up here. So what I started out with, I think, was Google updating apps for the iPhone 10, but not the ones you want, because we have to make everything a dramatic clickbait title nowadays. And it was just, what was it? It was not doc sheets and slides, obviously. I can't show the whole article here, but it was the email app and a couple others. And what came to mind immediately was, remember the whole Google Maps thing, and then when Apple stopped loading YouTube in as a default. I don't even remember when that was. I want to say it was back like at the iPhone 5 or 5S. And, everybody freaked out because, ooh, this iOS doesn't include YouTube when you install it. And it's like, or when you, activate your phone. And it's like, yeah, they'll get to it. I'm sure probably Apple doesn't share all the information that Google needs to optimize their apps for the iOS because, you know, why would they do that? So yeah, it's going to take a while. So that made the news somehow. I don't know. We should really, when you think about it. So the other thing was the OLED stuff. A lot of you probably know quite a bit, if not more about this than me, but I was really interested to read this article because it brought up how LG's OLED screens on phones are not that impressive, but their TVs are awesome, right? So why shouldn't they be just as good? And they're not, because they use a different process. Instead of using pixels, individual pixels like they do on the phones, the televisions actually have every color of RGB in layers. So you basically are not looking at, I know you all know what this looks like, but instead of looking at this, which is what we have for LG's OLEDs, we have instead, when it comes to their TV, a layer. So every single pixel containing every single color, not separated like these are physically. You know, you can actually see where the red ends and the green starts, and then the green ends and the blue starts. But instead, they have filters that turn on and off that allow different colors of light to come through. So there's the explanation, apparently, on a technical level as to why LG's screens don't look as good. Now, why they don't do them the same way, first thing I thought of was probably cost. That would be my first thought there, is that if LG is going to make these awesome TVs that look great, they are probably going to be pretty premium when it comes to price. But as we know, LG phones cannot cost as much as iPhones, and LG phones cannot cost as much as Samsung Galaxy series. Why? I guess because reputation, reliability, I don't know. But if they know that they're coming in at a lower price point, this has got to be, a big factor, obviously, is going to be the cost of the display. So I'm sure that's why they've chosen, at least until now, to stick with that. And there was actually a very good little comparison here. Let's see if I think I have it. I guess, didn't I? No, I guess I didn't. They actually had a side-by-side of a couple different phones. And one was Samsung's. It was the Pixel and the Pixel 2. And it's crazy because when you compare the two, the Pixel 2 display almost looked like dirty. It's weird. With the same sort of image on the screen, it just wasn't clean. It almost looked like somebody had just sprinkled a very thin layer of dust. And that being attributed, to being a Samsung OLED versus the LG. What is the top TV? Is yellow in now with the AMOLED? Well, my understanding is that the yellow is a combination, like they added a fourth color. I don't know. Is that a thing? If that's what you're talking about, that's I was not aware of that. What's a top TV in the US? Gosh, that's a good question too. I don't know. Samsung's pretty big. I don't have the numbers. I have several Samsungs though. Actually, the last few TVs I've bought have been Samsung, so there's one person's vote. But we see quite a few of those. We also see LG, obviously. Who else is making a lot of TVs? Not so many anymore. I'm not a TV expert, but I know Sony does, right? Sony, Samsung, LG. I know there's one other one that I can't think of at the moment. So what's going to happen with LG? It seems like every LG phone, or every person I know that owns an LG phone, is having problems with them. Or at least there are a lot of situations where they just quit. They freeze up, they get stuck on the logo, and there appears to be more than one different hardware problem that's causing that. And Matt, were you successful with that rehot, bro, the other day? I'm just curious. We had, what was it, wasn't a G6, it was something else, another LG that came in that had that whole frozen thing where you have to choose, I think, between doing chip off recovery or just hoping to be able to reflow it, which is obviously a big difference in cost. Sony Bravia. Westinghouse? Is Westinghouse still in business? I don't know. I don't know if anybody cares about this, but there is a new Apple commercial featuring singing emoji poop. I couldn't resist, and I don't understand why there's an emoji like that. I also don't understand this. There's an emoji for shrug with the female on it, but there is no emoji for shrug with the male on it. Why? I'm really curious to know that, because there are many situations when a shrug is completely appropriate, and I don't feel like sending, call me sexist, but I don't want to use the female emoji shrug when I'm the one sending the message. Is that me? But with all the different things that we have of, creating more diversity within the emoji sphere, I would have thought that there would be a male that shrugged also, maybe even some variation there. But anyways, there's a singing poop commercial. I kind of think they're going a little far with this. I always wanted to just think that was chocolate ice cream, honestly, or frozen yogurt or something. But if you want to see an emoji poop that sings, there's that. There's also talk of Apple making a foldable phone, and I'm very curious to know. It wasn't a G4, but yeah, the LG G4 boot loop. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, LG, the G4 and the G3 both had that, didn't they? Successful in getting the V10 to work and get the info off, but it failed after a couple minutes use. There is, though, just not on Android. On iOS, because that's what I got, and I typed in shrug and it didn't come up. I didn't scroll through them. I can't do that. There's too many of them. But I typed in the word shrug and it showed me the female and not the male. So I just assumed there wasn't one. Maybe I didn't look hard enough. So we had a V10 that came in that was stuck on the logo. Obviously, in that situation, a lot of times the customer doesn't want to invest a large amount of money in recovering the data. But if it's possible to do something like a reflow at least long enough to recover it, then, a lot of times they'll justify paying the fee for that. And in this case, it was successful, so that's awesome. So it's a V10. I swore she said it was a G6, and I probably wrote it down in the invoice that way. I might not have. I don't know. But if Apple's going to make a folding phone, what do you think would be like one of the applications for this? Because I know we've seen this talked about, and there was like this, one of those fake commercials that showed a guy at a bar and he was meeting a girl and he like unfolds this huge phone, and that was supposed to be something. And obviously that never happened, but Samsung supposedly has been talking about this for a while. And I always question these patents as to whether they already have a legitimate use in mind, or if maybe they're trying to make sure someone else doesn't monopolize an idea that they have. Or in the worst case scenario, sometimes we have people that come in and basically hijack these patents so that no one else can, and so that they can sell them to someone who they think has something in development. And, when you think about it, it could easily be a big company like Apple or Samsung or anyone else coming in and saying, let's go ahead and buy this technology that we think our competitor's working on, so that they would have to pay us in order to use it. It actually makes a lot of sense. In fact, if there aren't already patent wars like this going on, which if there are, I'm not aware of, I could see that happening. And of course, probably in the end, driving up the price for the consumer, which is what this kind of stuff usually does. I posted the emoji on here. Maybe it was added on iOS 11. Oh, you know what? It might be in iOS 11. I think I'm on still 10.3.3, old school. Let me see. What am I running on this thing? I am still on 10.3.3, and I think that was because I was considering jailbreak on this one. I don't know if there is a new one, but also this MacBook, I've got this MacBook Pro that said it was a 2016 when I bought it, but when I looked at the date, it says 2015 and a half, and I don't know if that's just like car dealers where they kind of, they call something the next year's model 6 months before it comes out. Maybe that's what this is, but, everything aside, after the last update, I'm pretty sure this MacBook Pro is kind of just not working as well, and it's freezing, and a lot of things are running slow, and I'm very frustrated by that because I thought this is a very late model device. Upgrading won't be a big deal. It's only from 2016, and yet here we have, if maybe by coincidence, but I'm pretty sure due to the update, some problems with this thing already, it sucks. It's really annoying because these things aren't cheap. But it does require a few restarts here once in a while. So what I was going on about here was the patents for the foldable phone. So if Apple makes a foldable phone, what do you think they would do with it? Like roll it up, put it in your back pocket? Maybe something where you have a large size screen like a Plus version, but if you're able to, if you're able to fold it in half, it's going to be a pretty awkward shape, I would think. Instead of having something that's long and slim, if you look at an iPhone 6 Plus, for example, if it has that screen ratio, and then you fold it in half, that's going to kind of make well, I guess it'd just be going the other direction when you put it in your pocket, right? But you also have to wonder, like, what about the battery and the logic board? Do you just put one in each half at that point, and then we go back to running flex cables between the two halves? I mean, how would that even work? Seriously. That probably seems like it would have to be a design along those lines, right? Like, you would have to have, the display is going to go all the way through the device, so that's going to take up that layer still. And with the remaining real estate, you obviously need a power source and you need a logic board. So it doesn't seem likely that they would be they would end up being in the same two halves. And would those two halves be symmetrical? That's another question, because if they were, then you would have a huge logic board. So I guess you put the camera in and a couple other things, but I think those are really the two main components that take up space. Well, charge port, I guess. Charge port and rear-facing camera, I suppose. Sounds like I have an iPhone 6 with the touch issues. Drain my battery. I didn't see that. So Rickford2 said, I updated to 11.0.1 and it drained my battery and some of the touch. I'm saying this out loud, guys, for the podcast, so just so you know, I'm not just reading out loud. Updated to 11.0.1 and it drained my battery and some of the touch stopped working. Yeah, that sounds more like an inherent touch issue rather than the update. Well, I guess sometimes an update can trigger something that's hanging by a thread to fall. Also, the front and rear camera should not change. Fixed to 11.1.3. Oh, okay. Cool. So, foldable phone, if that becomes the next thing, and y'all know that the next iPhone has to be pretty much an iPhone 10, but better. That's got to be what they're working on, right? Unless they come up with some radical new change like foldable phone. We always see, something 2 years in a row that's the same. The iPhone 8 is pretty much the iPhone 7 with some modifications, right? But for every prior model, 6, 6S, and all the way back to, with the exception of the first iPhone, which I've been corrected, is not the 2G, but the first generation, they seem to repeat it. So I would expect to see an improved iPhone 10, and then maybe 2019 is a foldable something, or maybe they're not even using it for phones. Maybe it's going to be for some other sort of video media, some other sort of media that they're getting into, like game stuff or television or who knows what. In any case, the next one is the OnePlus. Right? Nope. Are you not going to work for me now? Foldable, go away. OnePlus. All right, so the OnePlus 5T set a company record on launch day, and I looked at this article just for a second and thought, wow, the OnePlus set a sales record? Like, did they sell more 5Ts than any other phone in 6 hours? Well, no. But they did sell more OnePlus devices in the first 6 hour period than they ever have before, which is cool. To see any company to experiencing growth is awesome. So I'm not a OnePlus user, but I am excited for that company. They seem to be developing a loyal customer base, which is cool, because that means hopefully they'll stay in business and not get bought out by someone or go away. And then we have more to choose from and more incentive for manufacturers to compete, which is what we want. Oh, there's a fold phone video. I really wish that I could play this on the screen, but obviously I will be in trouble if I do. Let me kill that sound. Oh, so it's the unbox guy, and I can watch this video in 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to play it in the background here. So he's got a foldable phone, a dual phone. Now, is this the one from way back? Because I do remember, I thought I remember like a very small company making a foldable phone that didn't really, how old is this video? Okay, everyone, I'm actually watching this video that's linked November 8, 20. Oh, okay, this is a new one. I'm watching the video that Tim linked because I wanted to see this. So there is a foldable phone. I'm going to skip ahead here. Where does it fold exactly? And I'm going to have to go full screen because I can't. Oh, I see. Okay, so it does it that way. So kind of like, almost like an old slider style. That's interesting. Whoa. So wait, it's like a twin phone? Is that the deal? Okay, so it opens like a book and it flips around. Or okay, so you can actually do dual viewing. That's a trip. I wish I could show this on here. I can't. I'll put the link in the video description after this live stream is over. So if anyone comes and sees us talking about this, there's a foldable phone. It's Unbox Therapy. You've probably heard of his channel. He does all sorts of reviews and unboxing and stuff. And he's got a foldable phone that's, I suppose, what I imagine, but at the same time, I don't know, there's something about, I keep thinking of this flexible device that you just fold up like a wallet and put in your pocket, but we have to remember it's got to have a frame around it. There's got to be some metal built in there. So you're still dealing, that looks like two Motorola Droid, you know, the original Droids. It looks like that slide out Droid phone just in two separate halves. So obviously you're going to have, it's pretty big border on the edges too, but interesting. Wasn't there a border in the center though of that thing? It looks to me like the screens are separated by a black line, right? Yeah, so it's not like a seamless folding. I mean, it's cool that it has two displays, but I wonder why they chose to fold it instead of just making separate displays there. But either way, pretty cool. And I lost my chat again. I got to go back to pop out the chat. And get this back. All right, ZTE Axon. That's right. So that's the phone in the video, I assume. Not foldable. It looks like two screens. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. It's. I mean, technically it folds, right? But it's not a single seamless image, which is just kind of what came to mind. You know, I'm not saying I have high expectations and that's what they need. I'm just saying when someone says foldable phone, I'm thinking of a literal, you know, single piece screen that you fold in half. So I wonder if that is something that we'll see, because that would kind of be cool, especially if it really was, you know, future like credit card thin screen. And at the same time, that would probably mean that we would be out of business, because we're obviously not going to be able to service something of that size. So that would be a tough one, but still pretty cool. And now that is actually a good reminder to me about something I was thinking about. So I did a Google Hangout a couple weeks back on another channel. It's called Easy Computer Solutions. Pretty cool, and he really kind of inspired me to do more of the live streaming stuff, and because I realized how much fun it was and how it becomes addicting. And Axon has a hinge to fold. That's the trigger. Gosh darn it. I can't seem to concentrate these days. I was about to say something and I forgot what it was. Okay. So, anyways, I was on this other live stream and we were talking about the future of phones, which I think was a great topic for him to bring up. And, you know, when we look around, it's like, it's hard to imagine, I think, always what the next level is, you know, what the next product is going to be. And if we plan on being around for the next 5-10 years in the service industry, I'm really curious to see what we'll see, because it's going to be it's hard for me to imagine a handset surviving. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, you know, because 10 years ago we were using these things that didn't really have much of a display to speak of, except for alphanumeric or something like that. And we've come to smartphones where pretty much like the library is at your fingertips. Whereas, you know, some of us might remember when you actually had to go to a library and look things up. But if we look at what that is compared to now, and then look into the future and try to get an idea, and, you know, tech isn't only moving forward, but it seems to be moving more rapidly. It's hard for me to believe that people are going to want to walk around holding a phone or a tablet in their hand, or sitting in a room and staring at a big screen on the wall. You know, it doesn't really seem practical when you think about it, especially when the attention span that the average person has, based on all the information that's being thrown at you constantly. It's like we have adapted to a world where we have all these inputs going on at the same time, and we kind of just have to tune certain things out. So we seem to be pretty good at adapting, even if we are ignoring a lot of the information. You know, we're obviously having to choose what gets input and what just kind of bypasses us completely. But that isn't any reason to think, I don't believe, that we're going to be stuck with something that you carry around in your hand and put in your pocket. And When Eric asked me, like, what do you think the next big thing is going to be? My first thought was artificial intelligence, because we know that that's going to become a big part of everything. From phones to cars to homes to probably the military, and who knows what else. But that's artificial intelligence is going to be the next arms race, so to speak. So they're saying. But it's also going to have many consumer applications. That's going to be something that is going to become, becoming more sophisticated and more available and more commonplace. So my first thought was that when it comes to the next big breakthrough where things really change, the landscape is just completely different than it is now, would probably somehow involve artificial intelligence. I mean, that's got to be around the corner. There's got to be machines right now that are working out their own problems. We have machines that can learn. So once they hit that, what do they call it, singularity? Once they hit that level where they just start to teach themselves things at a rapid pace and that starts increasing, it's going to be like a very short time span before things change drastically. So my first thought was artificial intelligence. I think it's getting very sophisticated. It has a ways to go, but it seems to also be accelerating in how fast it advances. So that was my first thought. But my second thought, after the live stream, was that carrying around a phone is kind of silly. I'll tell you, I love to have my hands free. I almost won't take a phone call if I don't have a Bluetooth device. This is such a waste of my resources because now I have one hand tied. It takes away from things I'm trying to complete as far as projects. It will make me a worse driver, which I don't talk and drive, but if I did, it would certainly take away from that ability and many other things. You get the idea. So it doesn't make sense to have to carry the screen. Now, we've already seen Google Glass, and we saw that Snap tried to take things in that direction, but not really in a very sophisticated way, more in kind of a stylish, gimmicky way with their spectacles, which apparently failed pretty badly, and from what I read, they were stuck with quite a few of them. But I don't really think that was the next level. I think it was a good shot to take because of the type of company that they are. They could have had a lot of their users, had they enjoyed the experience with it, they could have really took off, but that didn't happen. But it kind of gave me the feeling that that's probably the direction we're moving into with handsets. Now, the future of the phone, you think Lenovo has a foldable phone? But is horrible looking? That wouldn't surprise me. The future of the phone is going to be artificial intelligence. No need to use the phone a lot. I agree. And I'm just thinking in terms of where the phone is located in relation to the human eye, ear, senses basically. And it would be logical that the phone would be integrated into something that is wearable. And if it is wearable, it's going to have to be somewhere, in this vicinity. It could be on the face. It could be somehow, I don't know, they could come up with some kind of amulet or something, who knows what. There's all sorts of stuff that they could do. But I think that we can learn a lot by the way that the spectacles failed with Snap. And that is they were too outrageous, I think, was one of the things. For something to catch on, if you could put on a pair of sunglasses and they worked just like Google Glass, but they looked like sunglasses. Think about that for a second. So you're driving down the road in your car, you put on your sunglasses, and you have access to all this information that you can get, normally through your phone, through a display, because I assume that we're going to get it visually. Until we plug into the Matrix and just start downloading information into our brains, I think that the most effective way to transfer information is going to be visually. We read, we see images, we process that and assimilate it at a rapid pace, whereas, we can listen to things like instructions and get a certain amount of information, but we tend to operate, primarily on visual cues for the most part. So I think that it would make sense that that's the delivery mechanism from the information, from the abilities that we gain by having a phone. It really should be at a glance, right? Instead of at your fingertips, it should just be, I look and it's there, right? I mean, to me, that seems like it would be the next logical step. So my vote or my prediction will be for the next generation, the next huge change in physical evolution for things like phones and tablets is a wearable device. Something like sunglasses where when you don't want it on, you just take it off. and it's no longer there interfacing with you. But when you want to use it, you put them on, and they probably adjust indoors and outdoors. So when you're indoors, they're not shaded like sunglasses. When you go outside, they function as sunglasses. And I can't see that not, when it reaches a sophistication level that makes sense. I think that is going to be the way to go. How else would you deliver the type of information that we have other than having some sort of display that people are reading from, right? So if they're not holding a device in front of their face or staring at a sign, and think about also the augmented reality portion of it, because that's another big push. This is something else that we think, obviously we're going to be seeing a lot from in the near future, and with companies like Apple, which if that means anything, it means that it's probably going to be something that people are going to engage in, and it is going to catch on in popularity and work, and that's the big challenge. And the failure obviously behind Google Glass and Snap is, with Google Glass, it was people didn't want to be filmed, and it was so obvious that you have a computer strapped to your head. You might as well be wearing the Gojo. And then with the spectacles, they really didn't have the capabilities, even that Glass did when it comes to functionality. So I think that'll probably be a sector that lots of research and development are going into. Yeah. And so AR, yeah, that's another one. AR could be huge, but you got to have some glasses on in the first place to see it, right? You have to have something on your head that displays that image. So I think those two coming together, and then when you throw artificial intelligence into it, that's when it's really going to get scary, because then we'll all be in the Matrix, I guess. I don't know. The device that has use AI, it has to be mainstream, not like Google Glasses. People are going to be put off. Yeah, that was the thing. People just did not like it, and despite being public, they still were not okay with it. And I understand that. It's kind of a courtesy thing that you don't go around aiming a camera at people, right? But if enough people do, it becomes, wow, think about the transition here. So one person had, let's say even 50% of the population is wearing something like Google Glass, because they say, you know what, the future's here. It will most likely be a young generation that will adopt it first, because they always do. And they'll say, we're going to wear these, and who cares what anyone else thinks? And then you're going to have, at some point, because there's going to be a transition, at some point you're going to have about a 50-50 split of people who use this technology and people who don't. So what is the possibility of having like an us and them of, sort of the observers, which I think they'll have probably some negative terminology to associate with people who adopt these early or in the beginning, during the first half, and some sort of nickname that they call them because they're walking around with these glasses on and looking at everything, and well, the other person doesn't have a pair, so if they haven't invested in it, then they're probably not necessarily opposed to it, but there's a good chance that a lot of people will be. And at some point, I think that might be a lot of people. I guess it depends on when it launches, when you think about it. But how weird would that be? The battery with Google Glass was 20 minutes. There's another challenge. Good point. You got to work out that. But, I think that I think we're all hoping that we'll see some big steps forward in battery technology in the near future. We're going to have to, really, with or more efficient devices, one of the two. We have to have something that allows us to spend more time doing the same thing that everyone's doing right now, which is engaging in electronics, which is weird. But again, good thing we're humans, we adapt pretty well to that. The problem is introducing the technology to the massive to accepted wearable. Moving to the future. These are comments, by the way, folks, for anyone who's listening to the podcast. Moving to the future, we have to make batteries better, because at night I need to charge my phone, watch, and then would I have to charge my glasses? Yes, in the future, you think it's bad right now you have to charge your phone. In the future, you also have to charge your watch and your glasses and probably some other biomechanism that will be implanted to monitor your health somehow. You know, there's probably going to be, or maybe they can figure out a way to harness motion into a battery. You know, that would be logical, right? Like, we're moving around all day, we have all these devices on. A watch can wind itself. These phones ought to be able to generate some sort of electricity, or extract some electricity from our movement, I would think. They eventually will be making normal glasses into these devices. That's really my thought, Rick, is that that's the only way that makes sense to me to go, right? I mean, I think it will be a long time before people are wearing VR headsets, you know, goggles. It's got to be something that just looks normal. You don't look like a freak when you wear it. I think that's the key. I think that's the point where maybe they do launch something way before that a lot of people, you know, or a significant number of people start to use. But that's going to be the point where everyone says, hey, I need to go down and get one of those. You know, when that becomes the next iPhone. Oh, you don't have your eyeglasses yet? Your eyeglasses. Can they do that? You don't have your eyeglasses yet? Everyone has them. Come on, Grandma. You know, you got to try it. You're going to love it. At some point in the future, I'm convinced that's where we're going to be. The eyeglasses. I'm sure that that's copywritten already, or patented, or whatever, by Apple or someone. Did I show you guys this video? I know that this won't be of interest to everyone, but I think there may be some people who come across the stream and say, what is this guy talking about when he says aftermarket? So I want to try to play this media source of a video I made, just a little side-by-side here. That, well, let's add it. Let's see. Don't loop. Oh, I'm so prepared. I know. 1 second here. So these are two screens. This is going to be, and you're going to know which ones they are. I'm not trying to deceive anyone. I was just going to see if this actually does anything, you know, if you can actually see it. But this is OEM iPhone 7 versus a Tianma from this company that I was talking about earlier in the stream that they sent me. And you'll see I moved things around because I'm indoors on this one, and I wanted to be fair with the lighting, because obviously the position of the camera in relation to the fluorescent bulbs will make some difference, but you'll kind of see as they shift around that it always seems like the phone on the bottom looks a little bit better, but beyond that, there's also a definite difference in the types of colors that are displayed on these screens. You know, and here you'll see me struggling a little bit, so I'm working on editing this at the moment, but you'll see that these screens, when I pick similar pictures, that the colors are actually different. And in fact, I would definitely say that overall the OEM had better quality, but beyond that, it had different types of colors, which, depending on what you're looking at, may or may not be superior. You know, it really depends on what you put on there. But there is a definite difference. That being said, not putting these phones side by side and just using the one on the top there, that's the Tianma, that's the aftermarket. Using this phone for a couple weeks, I never felt like I looked at the screen and was not satisfied, or, you know, that the colors looked really off or anything. And it's only possible, I think, to detect the difference in most cases. And there are exceptions based on lighting and image. But in most cases, I didn't really notice a difference until I put them next to each other. And then you see the definite... In just a second, I'll have this girl on the screen at the both screens at the same time. So you can see kind of the sharpness in the screen on the bottom, and that the one on the top looks almost a little greener. You know, it definitely doesn't pop as much. The contrast between the red and the lighter colors isn't as good. Definitely looks a little bit greener, but remember, it's also on the top, and when I had that phone on the bottom, its image actually, you know, it definitely improves by having it in that position. So I think I might need to add to this video a little bit to be a little more fair. But let's see. Can I make? I can't control playback on it while it's going. Darn it. Okay. Well, that's okay. I'm gonna let this roll for just a second longer. It seems like the color is pretty much the same with the OEM and aftermarket. It's just the refresh rate. Yeah. So, Tim, when would that be a big factor during video playback? I mean, when would the refresh rate be of concern if you're playing a game? I'm curious because I mean, they have the same Yeah, I mean, I can tell a difference for sure when they're side by side. But I'm really not convinced that I would pay $70 more as a customer. But yeah, you can see the one on top. It's just a little more dull for whatever reasons. But yeah, so just something I was working on, and I haven't got a hold of any of those. The really actually, I've seen the Hankai, Tianma, the OEM, and beyond that, I think there are a couple different LCDs out there now, aren't there? If I remember correctly. In any case, here's another thing that just I read about today. I don't have the article right here, but apparently there are at least one. There's at least one company in China that is thinking about building an AMOLED or an OLED factory in China. So, as most of you know, Apple is buying the AMOLED for the iPhone 10 from Samsung, which is always funny, you know, to hear that one company buys from another and then the next day they're suing each other. But those come out of South Korea. So the thinking is that China is willing to step into the OLED arena in order to become a supplier for Apple, which will be very interesting, you know, and probably, I think, really give iPhone a bigger advantage, because if they're not dependent on Samsung, and this company, you know, something in the headline about basically building a factory for free just so that they could get into the market, will have very interesting implication. Also, obviously, with trade, you know, the difference in trade relations that we have between China and South Korea will also be something that I guess it's really hard to say. You know, I'm definitely not completely very competent when it comes to politics, but I know that right now there's a lot going on that could affect that outcome. You know, that's without regard to North Korea. You know, with everything else that goes on between us and South Korea and us and China, if there was an OLED manufacturer in China supplying displays to Apple, I wonder what that would do to Samsung. That will be an interesting one to see. Let's see, where were we? Normal glasses is difficult to be implemented due to the constraints of the space, but Snapchat glasses did a good job, but still need a long way to go. Battery life and how long the info is displayed. You know, another thought is that why couldn't we have something in a pair of glasses that was similar to the Apple Watch or a smartwatch, I should say? You know, what if you had a pair of glasses that did need to be charged occasionally, didn't take very long to charge up, but lasted for short periods of time and ran off some sort of transmission from another device, you know, whether it was Bluetooth or whatever method of transmission, so that you still do carry a device with you, but maybe that device is built into your belt or, you know, into some sort of harness or on your wrist. Well, it wouldn't be on your wrist probably unless we get miniaturization to that level fast enough. But maybe there's another transmitter, that you carry with you, and it communicates with the glasses. And then the glasses are very easy to charge and don't have very big of a battery, obviously. So I would expect them to charge very rapidly. So there's another option. I'm still sold on the idea that this will be an area of focus for everyone in the near future. And if any investment opportunities came along, I would take a close look at them. If there's someone out there who is developing that technology and looks like they know what they're doing, that would be a company to watch, I think. Just my thoughts. But LCD is slowly going away. Get ready for OLED for sure. And this is that's definitely an application where a flexible screen would come into play, right? If you wear glasses that are intelligent in some way, and you want to make them look stylish like sunglasses, they're probably not going to be flat. So that's an idea. The brightness is lower on most aftermarket screens. Not sure about the ones you have. To be fair, 720p can only look so good. The issue is when using the phone with polarized glasses. Yeah, you know, and I've heard that some aftermarkets are much lower, and I don't understand why that is, because of all the things that would be difficult to do on an aftermarket display, it doesn't seem like building a sufficient backlight system would be that big of a challenge. I don't get that. Or maybe they wash out with too much light, and that's why they kind of toned it down. That's a good question. I wonder why would they not be as bright? Maybe they haven't figured out an efficient maybe their backlight system isn't efficient enough not to kill the battery rapidly if they have the brightness up to be equal to Apple's. That's a good possibility too, I think, right? Very true, Tim, and it seems a lot harder to make aftermarket OLED screens. Yeah, well, that may change. World Review said, and Tim was talking about how LCD is going away, AMOLED is coming, but AMOLED is more expensive. I have a feeling that if we have more suppliers, that can produce them, obviously the materials involved are going to be a factor when it comes to building OLED. But if there's competition in the marketplace, there's innovation, and there are people finding ways to acquire those materials. I hope it involves fair labor practices. That would be nice. Samsung has shown a foldable display a long time ago at CES show. When was that, Tech? Because it seems like I've gone to a few CES shows in the past. Curious, anyone else go to CES in Vegas? Good times. I think my first CES was about 95. Yeah, and I used to live in Las Vegas, so we would go to CES quite often. A couple of other trade shows. I went to CTIA a couple of years ago. I won't go again. I won't support that company. If you don't already know, they are completely opposed to or they have expressed their opinion as opposed to right to repair, even though they have the little repair thing going on at the CTIA conference. They suck, so I won't go there, but I've been to that before. Didn't find much useful in it, to be honest. But CES is a blast and really cool stuff. I mean, cutting edge, obviously, we see it the next day on a video, but to see the stuff up close and personal and to have an excuse to go to Vegas, always lots of fun. The one I'm interested also is the expo that they're having in Spain, and I'm going blank right now on the name, but I probably, I don't know, I need to sell something or do a Kickstarter and try to get there. That sounds like fun too. All right, everyone. Anything else we should go over before I jump off here? I went a little over an hour. Thank you all so much for coming. Let's see. Who do we have from the beginning? Tim, Jacob, everyone who modded for me, thank you. I super appreciate that. That was really annoying, but you guys cured it like in an instant. So if you come on again, I will automatically make you mod for sure. That was very helpful. And first troll, so there's an achievement. First troll ever on this live stream. No, actually, there was one other. He made one comment and went away, though, and I didn't even ban him or anything. But this was the first real troll, so that was kind of cool. Guys, I will be back next Monday at 2 p.m. Got some videos I'm working on I hope you'll like. And I wanted to share something else with you, and darn it, if I can find the image. Let's see. Let me see if I can get the image from my phone real quick, because I wanted you to see this. I thought it was kind of cool. The other day, actually yesterday, we had a PlayStation 4 come in, and let me see if this thing, this phone is just acting goofy lately. Let's see if I can see the screen and see you at the same time. I want to show you this picture real quick in case you haven't already seen it. I've got it on my phone. I've got to dig through applications because, like I said, I'm not as prepared today. I usually try to do better, but it was a very busy day. Let's see, where is that image? I know I took a picture of it. Okay, here we go. So let me throw this on my desktop. And did it move? Okay, let me rotate it so it will fit the screen. And then I will name it. And that is, come on. I'm not even going to be able to pronounce it, so I'm not going to say it. I'll have to read it in order to say it. So on this PlayStation 4, here was the thing. It would not accept a disc. So you go to put the disc into the tray, and it would not pull the disc in. You could hear the mechanism engaging on the inside. It made a little clicking noise, but it never prompted the rollers to pull it in. So we ordered another drive, and of course the thing about the drives are that the daughter board that's on the PlayStation 4 is matched to the hard drive, or matched to the console, not the hard drive, because you can change the hard drives. But the console logic, or the console motherboard, is matched to the daughter board that's built into the Blu-ray drive on the PS4. So we swapped out the drives and the daughter boards, and that did not solve the problem, which led me to believe that it is within the daughter board, which sucks because you can buy a replacement Blu-ray drive, you can buy an entire PlayStation 4, I mean, that's another option. But for the most part, everywhere you go will tell you that if the daughter board is shot, you have to buy another PlayStation, because they don't make replacement daughter boards because they are unique to the system, or they're matched to the motherboard. So I did a little more digging, and there's a channel I love. I'll put his link down here in the bottom when this is finished also. His name is Paul, not Aaron Paul, Andrew Paul. I think it's Andrew Paul. I always get confused with this name, but I'll put it down at the bottom. But this guy does everything PlayStation, he's a console game master. Excuse me. And I did some searching on his channel, and I found out that there's actually only one IC on the daughter board on the PS4 that needs to be changed in order to transfer that information to another daughter board. So you can actually move it. And now that I'm thinking, hold on one second, let me make sure I got the right photo here. Okay, yeah. So if you have, long story short, if you have a PlayStation 4 daughter board that is defective, you can get a replacement daughter board and switch out. I got to add drum roll on here. I need to add drum roll to this. That would be really cool. I'm just lazy. Okay. And you can take this little chip. It's one single chip. Right there. Oh, you can't see it, can you? It's too big. This guy's hands are huge. Okay. So this is on the back side of the daughter board, right next to where the power supply plugs in. And that big chip right there, you can remove. There is absolutely no underfill underneath it, and it comes off clean, and it's super easy to work with, because compared to any IC that you're going to deal with on a phone that has solder balls underneath it, this is the easiest thing in the world. So if you're doing micro soldering at that level, I did not know this. Like, I didn't until yesterday. I had no idea that all you have to do is transfer this. It's called the Renasas, R-E-N-E-S-A-S, the Renasas chip. If you remove that from the daughter board and transfer it to your donor, your game is still matched to that daughter board, and you're good to go. So that is pretty freaking awesome. So I hope that helps you if you deal with game consoles and didn't know that. I did not know that until yesterday. Comes off easy, no underfill, very basic for anyone who micro solders. And I was actually came in pretty hot, like 495 Celsius and 100 on the airflow, and no problem. I did add some leaded just to be safe, because it was the first time I did this one, but really I don't think I will in the future. I really don't think you need it. At that temperature, it melts really fast, and the board does not pull heat away from your source like the console's I keep wanting to say logic board, not like the console's motherboard. You know how those things just sink the heat away super fast? This daughter board does not react like that, so it's very easy to get it warmed up enough to melt the solder, pull it off, boom, you're done. Like the U10 IC on the iPhone. So yeah, guys, again, thanks very much. I know I can keep going all night. I'll be back next Monday. Also, next Thursday, same time, 6 o'clock. I really appreciate y'all coming out here. It's a lot of fun every time. And until then, have a great one. And enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to you next time.